Good morning. And hey, those of you worshiping with us at our other campuses, thank you. Thank you for being here today as we wind up this series called Correcting Spiritual Drift. And I just want to begin with a picture here. It's a picture of a wall of trophies, which throughout the course of the teaching today, I might refer to as a trophy case. Now, as you look at that wall of trophies and awards and medals, you might say, Jeff, I got nothing like that. You probably do. See, we all have a drawer or a box or a wall. It kind of represents our achievements in life, the things that we've accomplished, our achievements, our accomplishments, things we're kind of proud of. I mean, it might be anything from a high school diploma to a degree of some sort or another. A degree, it could be a master's degree, it could be a certificate, master carpenter, master plumber, master builder. It might be an experience. So, yeah, you did a stint in the military. Yeah, were you deployed? Yeah, I did 2 tours in Iraq, or a tour in Iraq and a tour in Afghanistan. And this goes into the achievement box. Maybe you have the insignia on your uniform concerning that deployment. It might be artistic achievement. This happens to be a varsity letter, but on the side it says orchestra. It is not mine. No musical talent here. It might be athletic talent. I have athletic medals, but almost all say the same thing. They say, finisher. And baby, these are important. I'm telling you, if you ever run a marathon, if you drag your body 26.2 miles, you want a medal, you want the t-shirt, you want a luxury automobile, something to represent that experience, and that goes in the box. There are other achievements that might not have plaques or medals to them. They're titles. Manager, assistant manager, district manager, vice president of sales, president, CEO, partner. And those other things we could never fit in a box. Say, talk to me about your achievements. Say, well, doesn't actually show up as a medal, but you're so proud of raising kids that managed to turn out all right. And you should have received a medal for that. I mean, child number 2, you shouldn't have simply been nominated for Mother of the Year. You should have been nominated for sainthood with child number 2. And so these are our achievements, our medals, our accomplishments. And let's just agree with something. Some people's boxes are fuller than others. Some people don't need a trophy box or a trophy drawer or a trophy wall. They need a room to hold all their awards. And I'd like to introduce you to one. Guy's story is found in your Bible, 2 Kings chapter 5. Dude's name is Naaman. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Trophy Case. We read these words. Now, Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram. Now, this is Syria, and it's right next door to Israel. So just off the bat, we're given his position. He's a commander. Dude's in charge. In fact, we're going to find in this story, he's like right up there next to the king. He's got position, he's got power, he's got money. And speaking of the king, it says he was a great man in the sight of his master, highly regarded, because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. Highly regarded. He is respected by his boss. His win-loss ratio is so good. The king is like, man, I wouldn't know what to do without you. So he's respected, held in high regard. You say, yeah. But general types, they stand back and push other people into the battle. No. Not Naaman. This next sentence, it says he was a what? He was a valiant soldier. See, this is not a person that sends you into battle. This is a guy who leads you into battle. Do you see the trophy case building with Naaman? He's got reputation. He's got respect. He's got position. Dude's got money. I introduce you to Mr. Trophy Case. Anything else we might want to know about Naaman? Yeah, one small thing, but he had leprosy. Now, that's kind of a bummer. And his trophy case is not going to get him out of this problem. Leprosy, it's a skin disease. There's a spot, and it starts to grow, maybe to the point where you can see your flesh through your skin. Leprosy is not just a physical problem, it's a social problem. It's a social problem because if it takes over and starts moving toward the visible parts of your body, like your face, you start withdrawing from society because you might look hideous. But in addition to that, there's the fear of that it would be contagious. And so Naaman, who is like an insider, the ultimate insider, is very soon going to be on the outside looking in. Now we're going to follow the story of Naaman today as he seeks physical healing. And as Naaman seeks physical healing, Naaman is going to find his way to God. That is, as he seeks physical healing for this skin disease, something else is going to happen. He's also going to find some healing for his soul and healing for his mind and rest for his spirit. Now, this teaching on Naaman, it lands our series called Correcting Spiritual Drift. And I just can't imagine how many people are here today who sense that this is a season where God is drawing you to himself. Perhaps you have more heightened spiritual sensitivity in this season. Perhaps you are aware of things that you have ignored in the past. But for whatever reason, it's like your spiritual appetite is dialed up, but you find yourself wandering around just a little bit. I think today, as we explore the story of Naaman together, I think there will be some unbelievable clues in finding your way home or finding your way back home. Our story unfolds in 3 parts. Part number 1 just has to do with guidance, because right out of the gate, right after we're told that Naaman had leprosy, we're told that he receives some guidance. Somebody points him in the right direction, and it comes from an incredibly unlikely source. It comes from a source of someone without awards, without achievement, without a trophy case. Check out the story with me. Now, bands of raiders from Aram, had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served who? Naaman's wife, Mrs. Trophy Case, all right? She served Naaman's wife. Now, just follow the storyline here. Aram, or Syria, is next door to Israel. Raiding parties had gone into Israel, and somehow in some skirmish, they had taken this girl captive back to Aram with them, and now she has the job of assisting Naaman's wife. Now, the term that is used for her, young girl, generally used for someone like 12, 13 years old. So in your mind today, think someone like middle school age, So she comes to her mistress, Naaman's wife, and she says this. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he, the prophet, would cure him of his leprosy." Now that prophet in Samaria is a dude by the name of Elisha. So she tells Naaman's wife, if only my master, if only he would travel to Israel and find the prophet could cure him of his leprosy. The wife tells this to Naaman. Naaman goes to his king, repeats what the girl has said, and the king says, "Man, by all means, go." And so Naaman now packs up, and he's heading to Israel with some loot. So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 full sets of clothing. Does that seem like a small fortune to you? It's not a small fortune. It's a big fortune. In fact, that right there represents so much money. You kind of go, could one person, one household have leveraged that amount of cash, that amount of resources? Some speculate that this was state-sponsored. Like the king, the national treasury, he was so important to the country. They said, we'll help you. Massive amount of money. And he takes off. But he takes off with a letter from his king, the king of Aram, to the king of Israel. Would you like to see the letter? You need to see the letter because the king of Israel is going to absolutely flip out when he reads it. Here you go. The letter that he took to the king of Israel read, "With this letter, I am sending my servant Naaman to you so that you can cure him of his leprosy." And the letter is sent to who? The king of Israel. The king of Israel, he flips out. It says he rips his clothes, a sign of mourning, and he starts asking questions like, am I God? Like, can I kill people and bring them back to life by my word? Why is he sending me this letter and this guy saying cure him of his leprosy? He's trying to start a war. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to start a war. And it absolutely dismantles the king of Israel. Elisha the prophet hears about this, and he sends a message to the king of Israel and says, why have you ripped your clothes? Send Naaman to me so that Naaman may know that there is a prophet in Israel. I just want you to know something. The servant girl says, go see the prophet. Naaman doesn't see the prophet. He goes from one court to another court, from one house of splendor to another house of splendor, to one seat of power to another seat of power. I don't think Naaman is used to dealing with anybody who's not at the very top. And so Naaman shows up at Elisha's house alone. Oh no. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. He's got an entourage. Naaman shows up. He's got a posse. There's horses. There's chariots. The whole setup screams achievement, accomplishment, status. I might be going out on a limb here, but I think Naaman has two problems. One problem is his leprosy. Another problem, I believe, is his arrogance. I think that Mr. Naaman might be just a little full of himself. Don't dislike him for this. It's a common condition. I have a suspicion that Naaman isn't the only resourceful control freak in the room. But the challenge is that often our pride can prevent us from finding God. You know that, right? Often when God is calling us, whispering our name, drawing us in, often it is human pride that can prevent us from finding our way home. And it is Naaman's pride that almost blows this whole situation up, because he's out in front of Elisha's house. And what he's imagining is the great prophet Elisha will come out and stand respectfully before Naaman, be recognized, maybe bow, then come to Naaman, look at the spot of leprosy, wave his hand over it, do some hocus pocus, abracadabra, and take his leprosy away. And that, my friends, is not what happens. Elisha won't see him. Elisha sends a servant out to give Naaman instructions. This isn't going to go over well with Mr. Trophy Case, who is used to only dealing with people who are at the top. Just be warned, part two of the story deals with humility, and it's what's going to be required for Naaman to make the next move. So this is what happens. Elisha, he doesn't go outside. Elisha sent a messenger to him. He says, now go wash yourself like 7 times in the Jordan River, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be what? Cleansed. It's just really interesting here. When Naaman's condition, it's not just you will be healthy, it's you will be clean. And you know from back in the day that often someone with leprosy, they had to yell, unclean, unclean, so you wouldn't get too close. You will be cleansed, you will be clean. This doesn't go over very well. In fact, Naaman storms off. I want to show you, would you like to see his rant? I hope so. It's a beautiful rant. Naaman went away angry and said, I thought he would surely come out and he would stand before me. And then he would call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the spot and cure me of my leprosy. That's not the whole rant. He goes on. And he goes, and are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the rivers of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed? So he turned and went off in a rage. He's just raging. Just when I say he's a little full of himself, just notice here, even our rivers are superior to your rivers. Even our water's better than your water. I could have stayed home. And the Abana and Pharpar that flow through Damascus, aren't those waters much more superior? And he's just angry and he's livid. He go, what? Dip yourself in the Jordan River 7 times? Any loser can do that. Any nobody can do that. It's like, go run around the tree 13 times. You got to be kidding me. And his servants are going to have to talk him down off a ledge. I love the way they intervene. It says, Naaman's servants went to him and said, my father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he tells you, wash and be cleansed? I mean, if the prophet had said, okay, go storm some castle and bring back a golden chalice, you would have done it, right? If the prophet had said, crawl up this mountain on your knees, you would have done it, right? Father, our master, if he'd have told you to do some difficult, arduous, challenging thing, you would have been all in. He's just saying, go dip in the water 7 times. Give it a shot. I want you to notice something. This is the 3rd time in the story that Naaman has received direction from other people. First direction, guidance, comes from slave girl, middle schooler. If only my master would go to Israel, find the prophet, he could heal him of his leprosy. Guidance number 1. Guidance number 2, not Elisha, but the servant of Elisha comes out. Says, this is what the prophet says, go dip yourself in the Jordan River. Here, it's his own servants that talk him down off a ledge and get him pointed in the right direction. This is so powerful. I think there's a principle here that is so important for you. If you sense that God is drawing you, calling you, you have heightened sensitivity to spiritual things that you haven't in a long time. You're being awakened to things that you've ignored for a long time. This is my plea. In your journey to God, do not travel alone, because often God will be pleased to place individuals in your life that can help point the direction of where to travel next. In your journey to God, do not travel alone. God may be pleased to put some people in your life, some people at work, a coworker, a client, someone you used to work with, who offers a word of spiritual direction. God may be pleased to use the voice of a neighbor. God may be pleased to use a voice of someone in your family. My wife, Chris, 17 years old, going through a time in high school. It was just awful and bad. And remember that as a 12-year-old, she had a grandma, her grandma in Oregon, that held her face and said, honey, I pray that someday you will know Jesus. As a 17-year-old, climbed on a Greyhound bus in Sacramento, California, traveled up to Oregon to spend a few days with grandma. And Chris marks those days as pivotal in her spiritual journey. Because often our gracious God will place people in your life to give you some direction. 3 times in the Nehemiah story, there are individuals that have to point him the right way. If you find yourself making your journey home, your journey back to God, do not travel alone. There's someone in your life and they're part of some small group like Bible study thing. And you say, hey, Jay and Cheryl, they're, how do you know them? Oh, we go to church, we're part of a small group together. I'm just saying, just out yourself. Just go, do you have room for 2 more? Do you have room for 1 more? I mean, listen, understand something. I don't know if I even believe yet, but I think I will go farther faster. And you guys look, well, kind of normal. Do you have room for 2 more? Do you have room for 1 more? In your journey to God, do not travel alone. If you're trying to get some pieces to lock into place, it's probable that you have someone in your life that is a stable, consistent believer. Talk to that stable, consistent believer and just say, hey, can we have coffee? And by the way, when we have coffee, I got 2 questions. Think about it between now and when we get together. Questions are these. What does Jesus mean to you and why does Jesus matter? What does Jesus mean to you and why does Jesus matter? Listen, if the believer in your life won't talk, you talk. Get it out of them. Just two questions. What does Jesus mean to you, and why does Jesus matter? Now listen, for those of you that are maturing believers, it is a reasonable expectation that every maturing believer would be able to, in like 4 minutes, be able to say in their own words, this is what Jesus means to me, and this is why I think Jesus matters. There's your homework assignment. 3 to 5 minutes, in your own words, gently and humbly. This is what Jesus means to me, and this is why he matters. But the point is this, Naaman in this journey, Naaman on 3 different occasions, God has someone in his place. It's the middle school slave girl, it's the servant of Elisha, and now it's his own servants who help get him pointed in the right direction. Often, our gracious God will place around us individuals who help us find our way home. In your journey to God, don't travel alone. And so the servants say, look, what can it hurt? I mean, just if he had asked you to do some weird, crazy, hard thing, you'd have done it, right? So just give it a shot. And read these beautiful words based on their recommendation and direction. It says, so he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan 7 times as the man of God had told him. Now, I need you to envision this. Chariots, horses, over to the shore of the Jordan River. It says he went down into the river, down the shore, down the slope, into the river, and there begins dipping himself 7 times. Elisha's instruction were go to wash in the Jordan River. I'm assuming you don't wash fully clothed. I assume you strip down. I mean, maybe you're wearing something, but it's not much. When Naaman goes down into the Jordan River and begins to wash, the chariots are up on the shore. All the money's up on the shore. His expensive clothes are up on the shore. And in fact, maybe it's as he disrobes and strips down that maybe these servants see the blotches and the oozing sores for the first time. Naaman enters the water looking pretty much like anybody else, only blotchier. Naaman enters the water with all his trophies on the shore. He enters the water as nobody. And he just begins to lower himself into the water. And a second time, and a third time, and nothing, and a fourth time, and a 6th time, and a 7th time. And his flesh was restored, and he became clean. Flesh restored like skin of a young child. And you think he races home to embrace his wife and to greet his king and back to work, and he doesn't. He turns the chariots around, and he heads back to Elisha for a very interesting interaction. I want you to see that there's something that's happening here that is deeper than his physical wholeness and his physical wellness. We read this. Then Naaman and all his attendants, all the chariots, all the horses, went back to the man of God. He stood before him. So now it's like Naaman's in the position of humility. He stands before Elisha. He stands before him and said, now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. Understand what's happening here. It's not simply that skin is back and leprosy's gone. It's that his eyes are opened to the one and only creator God of the universe. Something is happening in him spiritually. It's a journey of physical wellness, but it's a journey of spiritual wholeness. In fact, he's gonna ask for, hey, can I ask for something? Can I just get like a couple huge bags of dirt? And when I get back home, I'm gonna lay those out on the ground and it's dirt from Israel because I will only worship the God of Israel back home. But he says to Elisha, he says, so he accepted a gift. So please accept a gift from your servant. Elisha is going to become a very, very rich prophet. I can't wait. Check it out. It says, the prophet answered, as surely as the Lord lives, whom I serve, I will not accept a thing. You got to be kidding me. And even though Naaman urged him, he refused. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, see it there. The only time in the history of the world that someone has offered a minister money and he declined. What's up with that? I get paid generously. I get paid. What's up with that? You see, what has happened is that this story is a story of grace. It's not only a story of humility, it's a story of grace. And grace is something that you do not earn, that you cannot earn and do not deserve. Grace is something you cannot earn and do not deserve. I think Elisha doesn't want Naaman to get back to Syria, back to Aram. There's a couple people in the palace talking, a couple soldiers talking, say, hey man, Naaman, you heard that his leprosy is gone, right? You're kidding me. What happened? Well, you know the guy's loaded, right? I mean, he took all this gold and stuff over to Israel and he paid off some magic man to heal him. Isn't that just like Naaman? He's able to get out of any fix that he is in. No exchange of money here. Naaman gets back home. He has not paid off the man of God. It's just a story of receiving wholeness, receiving wellness. Eyes opened. Grace is something that I cannot earn and I do not deserve. It is just so not a stretch in our minds to see Naaman dipping himself in the water. And this comes hundreds of years before the time of Jesus. It just is so easy to take a jump from that and to a practice that we have called baptism, where a person is lowered beneath the water and comes back out, that represents not healing for skin diseases, but it represents forgiveness of the soul. Baptism, as we practice it, it's been practiced in one form or another since the time of Jesus. Baptism is that moment a person says in one way or another, I understand that I'm incapable of self-rescue, that I have missed it in so many ways, messed up in more ways than I even know. It's caused distance between myself and God, but also a mess between myself and other people. The time of baptism, and just watch this simplicity of a person being lowered into the water, dipped, if you will, and brought back out. What baptism celebrates is a person who's arrived at the point where they says, I understand something, I bring nothing, and he gave everything. That Jesus came to pay a debt that he didn't owe. And when he died for me. I bring nothing. He gave everything. Say those two statements with me. Ready? I bring nothing. Ready? I bring nothing. He gave everything. Ready? He gave everything. Together, I bring nothing. He gave everything. And when we're thinking, we go, I bring nothing. He gave everything. I owe everything. And baptism is also often that moment where we recognize the forgiveness that takes place only because of Jesus, and now our desire to follow, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but consistently. I recognize that he's the one that came to rescue, but also the one that says, follow, follow, follow me. I bring nothing. He gave everything. I owe everything. All I'm trying to say is this. When you come to Jesus, leave your trophies on the shore. When you come to Jesus, leave your trophies on the shore. Your achievements, your accomplishments, we love these. We go, listen, first I kind of get a medal for the bad stuff I didn't do. I mean, you hear every once in a while, right? Of someone doing something like despicable, and you go, man, at least I've never done that. So there's a medal for the bad stuff I didn't do, but we add to that a medal for the good stuff that we did do. I mean, maybe it's church stuff, depending on your tradition, going to confession, going through, a catechism consistently, or sometimes in church, the level of financial generosity. Maybe it's kind of the church stuff. Maybe it's not the church stuff. Maybe it's that you've just genuinely helped other people, genuinely served other people. But this kind of adds to our award drawer, one of the medals that we bring. Listen, when you come to Jesus, leave your medals on the shore. In addition to the stuff we did, there's the stuff that we intend to do. And that kind of becomes a medal too. I haven't actually read my Bible consistently, but baby, I plan to. We're putting ourselves in a position where one day we will be more generous, and that's just around a couple more corners after we do a couple more things. So the stuff that we intend to do. I suggest to you that we even add medals for things that we thought about doing. I was listening to a comedian not long ago, and he said that he had a first-class plane ticket, and he was ready to board the airplane, and he saw a U.S. Military person in uniform, and he said, you know what I had to do? I had to give up my first-class ticket, and that guy needs to sit in first class, and I need to sit in coach. Then the comedian went, oh, I didn't actually do it, but I thought better of myself because the thought occurred to me. And these form our medals, things we didn't do, things we did do, things that we think we will do, that we intend to do, things that we thought of doing. When you're tempted to measure up to God and to come and go, here, see me, see? I just need you to remember a Syrian general who walked into the water with nothing but his boxers and his blotches. When you come to Jesus, leave your trophies on the shore. I bring nothing. Christ brought everything. Now I owe everything. Here I am to follow. Man, when we truly comprehend grace, it can begin to change things. And if grace changes like nothing, we've got good reason to believe or to question whether or not the effects of grace are active in our life as they should be. When you come to Jesus, leave your trophies on the shore. I bring nothing, he gave everything, I owe everything. What I want to do now is turn a corner with you. We have the privilege today of celebrating communion together, and in each of our rooms, a campus pastor or room host will be walking you through step by step the way we're going to do it this morning. But let me just ask Beth to come out and just play for a minute as I just give just a brief word and then a prayer for us as we move toward communion. The night before Jesus is executed, the night that he's going to get arrested, he has dinner with his disciples. We call it the Last Supper. He knows what will happen the next day. They don't comprehend it. And at the meal, he takes bread and he breaks it and he passes it around to his followers. And he says, in the future, when you break bread and eat it together, I want you to remember what happened to my body for you. This is my body broken for you. After eating the bread, he took a cup of wine and he passed the cup of wine to his disciples. And he said, I want you all to drink from this. And he says, listen, in the future, when you drink from the cup together. I want you to remember the blood that dripped out of my body for you. Such a powerful statement and such a powerful memory, which has been carried through Christian history right up to our day, where Jesus says, your achievement, your accomplishment is not at the center. That's not the story that I am telling here. It's a story of grace that I invite you into. This is what I have done for you. And so the lyrics of the song that we're gonna sing, it's an old tune. It just says, what can wash away? Think of Naaman in the water with the leprosy disappearing. What can wash away my sin? And the riff is just nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. Communion remembers the one who gave everything to bring you home. Let me ask you to stand. I'll pray for you, then we'll sing. Gracious God, we give thanks that we were in this house today to celebrate your goodness, to celebrate your grace. Lord, as we move into this time, just help us to remember, help us to recall. Give us the grace to understand the immensity of your gift. In Jesus' name, amen.